Today is September 22nd, 2025, and actually, today I'm literally at a castle in Japan, and this castle is Matsuyama Castle in Ehime Prefecture, which is awesome. And I think it's really cool that Japan has so many different things to admire when it comes to, its nature and its landscape, but the fact that there are castles too here is something that I've always been impressed and in awe by. So I love that, and I'm so glad I'm here. And this is my first vlog, so I mean, not really sure what to say, but all I can do for sure is just say how excited I am to be here. And I found a pretty quiet spot. It's peaceful, so there's not too many people I am possibly like interrupting or getting in the way of, which is cool. But this place has so many things to see, and today's just day one of my itinerary. I took a couple of photos while I was at Matsuyama Castle, and one of them was this close-up shot of part of the castle's walls and roof. What I found interesting was the contrast between the different surfaces. The white plaster, the dark wooden panels, and the stone base all reflect the sunlight differently, which creates a nice balance across the frame. I also like that many of the intricate details of the castle are visible here, like the roof tiles, the aged wood, and the texture of the stone. This is another photo I took while I was at Matsuyama Castle. What I really love about this image is the sense of depth. You can really see how high the castle stands above the footpath below. I also like the way that the castle contrasts with the nature directly across from it, which makes the photo more interesting to look at. I think I was also lucky with the timing of the shot because there's actually a person strolling along the footpath towards the trees. Here is another snapshot, and I'm really glad it was a sunny day when I visited. I found it interesting how the shadow in the foreground stretches across the ground and the direction that it follows. I also enjoy symmetry, so I like that there are 3 windows in a row in the background. At the same time, one of the windows has a completely different shape, which adds a bit of contrast and a level of character to the scene. The last photo from this group is a snapshot of Matsuyama City taken from a high point within the castle. Just having part of the castle visible in the foreground creates a really nice contrast because it highlights both the historical side of Japan and the modern cityscape that exists alongside it in Matsuyama. So today I'm here at Ozu, and literally it was the last stop on the JR line for where I took the train from Matsuyama Station. And the station is literally called Iyo Ozu. But what's really cool is that this place features so many traditional, I guess you can say, establishments, as well as a huge castle over here, which is why I'm here today. So it's really cool to see that, something so precious, or something that was a part of, I guess, an older part of history is still standing tall here. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah. Let's check this out. It's such a view. And I really think this place is awesome. And I think that so many people should come to Ehime and just get to explore this place and see all that it has to offer, This is Japan too. Not just Tokyo, not just Kyoto, not just Osaka. When I first stepped outside of the train station in Ozu, I wasn't expecting to see multicolored brick roads on the way to the castle. So that was a nice surprise. I also thought the stools along the side of the road at the bus stop looked like tree stumps, which adds to the traditional feel of the area. Despite the white-walled traditional building with the detailed roof tiles and the brown-roofed building ahead of it, there are also some modern elements here. For example, the large sign pointing towards Ozu Castle, the black building ahead that seems to be a modern residential property, and the printed advertisements on the brown-roofed building. This is one of the snapshots I took while I was at the castle. This castle is much smaller than Matsuyama Castle, but I still really like the way the shape of the castle looks from this angle. It almost feels like the castle is pointing up towards the sky, like an arrow with its sharp edges. I also really like how the castle stands on rocks that are visibly worn down. It makes the castle appear as if it can withstand almost anything, including time. After I visited Ozu Castle, I walked over to a place called Garyu Sanso, which is a villa. It was actually quite far on foot, but I'm still glad I made the trip because it was beautiful. I really like that the interior is visible from this angle, and the lamp inside gives the scenery a more ambient feeling. The landscape surrounding the villa was just as beautiful, and I'm glad I was able to capture a photo of it along with another visitor who makes a great subject in this shot. I also love this shot, which features the same visitor alongside another visitor as they both observe one of the attractions at this place. to Matsuyama Sogo Park right after Mikan Park. And it was a very long walk because of how steep the path was to reach this spot. There were many stairs, and of course there were many uphill, areas that you had to bypass to get to the spot. However, I'm really glad I made the climb because I was able to get this shot. One of my favorite parts of this observatory is the pillars. They actually remind me of the pillars in the Disney movie Hercules, especially the scene where Hercules accidentally knocks them down while trying to be helpful. If you know, you know. This is one of my favorite photos I took from the observatory. If you look at the round patch of green surrounded by the city buildings, you can see Matsuyama Castle. I also love the ray of light that highlights the buildings on the left side of the castle. There's also a train rail cutting through the city that almost looks like it's floating above it. Altogether, it feels a bit magical. From the outside, the observatory mostly appeared to be made from the same materials, but once I stepped inside and made my way to the top, I noticed just how many different materials were actually used to construct it. I love that this snapshot captures that detail. I also love how the light from the setting sun hits the pillars and makes them appear soft, yet sturdy. This was one of the photos I took on the day I went to Kashima. From the pier, the island almost looks like a huge green treetop. I also like how the direction the ferry is heading, because it creates a water path filled with white bubbles as it approaches the dock. I think one more thing I just wanted to point out was that I like the way the bright rooftop of the inn contrasts with the greenery behind it, as well as the water in front of it. I have never seen a ferry that featured a deer statue on its roof, but since Kashima translates to Deer Island, it's what makes this ferry boat unique. In a location that's pretty much surrounded by the sea and sky, I found this ferry to be eye-catching because of this cute detail. This shot was taken after I hiked through Kashima's forest and reached the observatory at the top. I'm not sure if it's because I'm from New York City, but being surrounded by this much nature and silence, especially since I was the only person at the observation deck that day, really left me in awe. I also love how the greenery cuts across the frame of this shot and creates a natural split between the ocean and the land. This is a photo I took while I was still near Kashima, and this car caught my attention because of the position of the side mirrors. I wouldn't say I know a lot about cars or taxis, but even for me, I've never seen a design like this before. It's pretty cute actually. I also like that across the street, there is a more modern car parked in a garage, which creates a bit of contrast with this vehicle. In a way, it's almost like the past looking the present straight in the face, except with cars. This snapshot is one of my favorites that I took in Mitsuhama, and the timing couldn't have been more perfect since I managed to capture the boat as it was sailing towards another pier. I really love that between the blue sky and the blue sea, there's a clear subject in the frame besides the mountain in the background. For this photo, I'm not really sure how else to explain it, but it feels like a scene I would expect to see in a cozy video game. There's a truck parked by the seashore, and I can almost imagine the driver taking a moment to admire the view from this spot while eating an onigiri or a tamago sando.